And to get the show started, hey everybody, Terry Miller, the disc golf guy here. And sure enough, somehow I've lined myself up for yet another recap show that's going to be solo. And tonight, I absolutely promise it's going to be shorter than the other 2 or 3 recap shows you're going to see this weekend. It's already pretty late. It is Wednesday night, October 6th. And I do need to do a couple of things to make sure that everything is up and running. So please, first and foremost, let me know if you are in fact hearing and seeing this all. There's only so much I can do with this face per se, but let me know that everything looks and sounds okay. And then from there, I'll hopefully be able to continue forward. I'm trying to get all the information put together. I'm going to see if I can put this out on Facebook and make sure everything is up and running. So I do need a little bit of a help. And just like that, a couple people have jumped on. Johnny V says recap show. Yeah, I think we'll see how that's going to go. But I do need to just do a couple of quick items. I think I'm going to be able to post this to the Facebooks. Somebody please let me know for sure. Okay, looking and sounding good. With that, that's going to be a post. Now Facebook's going to be notified. And within a few seconds, hopefully I'll be able to get everything officially up and running here. Whoa, don't want that. What is that's? Oh, hey, the comments are popping up. I don't think I want that because you guys might get silly. So that's actually a new feature, hence the comment assistant beta version. I don't think I want that popping up on there. Although I do appreciate it. Unsilenced dissenter. That is very kind of you. But I do think if I click on this, oh, wow. This is some next level action. Now, keep in mind, everybody, as always, this is just me in a hotel with a few buttons and a few things that apparently sometimes work for me. So we're going to take it from there. I'm going to try and keep track of the comments as best as I can. Sorry, I do have to look down for that. But welcome everyone. We are here. It is 25% over, and that's of course the Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championships, along with our 2021 United States Disc Golf Championships. And it's been a great day, clearly. Everybody pretty much steered clear of the rain that was allegedly imminent. I think it was going to be here. It was talked about a lot. I know at one point this morning, even when I checked and was just getting ready to go to the course, it originally had said that we're going to see something in the afternoon. That continued to push back into early evening. Later on, I finally did feel a few raindrops, and that turned into a light rain, but that was not really while anyone was out on the course. So overall, have to say we're pretty blessed by what we saw out here yesterday. I'm going to address a few things right there on the comments. Hopefully they're all coming through. Sexton is winning. Yeah, Sexton's doing well. I'm going to talk about that in a moment with regard to some confusion on my end, fair or otherwise. Also, Terry, did you request the 80s wallpaper? I'm going to give a big shout out. I'm a huge fan of where I'm at. I'm at the Cambria Hotel. I'm not telling you the room, probably. I'm at the Cambria Hotel right near the course. Last year, I think I stayed at the newer one that was about 20 minutes from the course. And because I am a super duper choice rewards member, I get an incredible discount for being here. And Cambrias are the top of the line for your C to B list level hotel chain. So I don't know if that's saying a lot or not, but it is quote unquote top of the line of a otherwise very mediocre hotel system and chain. And this place is brand new. It's really nice. And most importantly, and why it's going to get starred and forever be bookmarked, the internet speed here is absolutely insane. It was over 100 by 100. And for those of you that know what that means, that's pretty darn good. So anyway, as you're talking about, the I don't think it's even wallpaper, honestly. I think that's actual paint. And I don't know. I think it looks just fine. If you guys want to be jerks about it, I think it looks all right. Okay. So let's see if I can click on a few things and get us right into some UDisc scoring. UDisc, I don't pay them and they don't pay me, but it doesn't really matter. We're gonna utilize some of the resources here tonight to take a look at the Throw Pink Women's Championships. I want to start women first. So with that, I'm going to see if I can simply bear with me, folks. Here we go. Hey, there we go. This actually worked last year. We'll see if we can get it going again. So, taking a look, spoiler alert, if you're waiting for any kind of post production or you haven't gone back and watched the, as we call it, the chunked out, as in the, the broken up 9-hole versions of the live coverage, you may want to log off or maybe it's too late, but you could definitely check those things out. But here we go. We're going to start out with some of the basics. And again, I'm going to go through everything a little bit quickly. Storyline slowly developing during the first day, of course, but you have to look at Paige Pierce, what she did. 8 birdies, 7 under for the day. And somewhat crazy to actually think. I don't know if I can expand this, maybe make this a little bigger. I don't know if you guys can see that better or not. I believe hole 1 is in fact the shortest hole on the course, 283. Technically, hole 7 is listed as 284, and hole 6 for the women is listed at 282. So it is not the shortest hole on the course by a foot. But Paige Pierce, and she did not miss the Mando from what I saw. If you drill down a little bit, if any of you are new here, I'm by no means a UDisc expert, but there's a few simple things that you guys may or may not know of, and once in a while I'll be able to mention those for you. But if you drill down a little bit, you can take a look. You see that she has 0 OBs, 0 penalties. That's incredible, and I wouldn't be as impressed about that necessarily if she wasn't so impressed about it. And she had openly said, right as we were pulling her in for the interview, she said 0 OBs. Like, she said it with excitement and enthusiasm. And to me, that tells me that she was really excited about it. Just want to double check. We still have volume. Yes. She was super excited about that. As she should be. I mean, and of course, like this, where there's literally out of bounds on every single hole, the fact that she managed to steer clear of that out of bounds is a little bit of a victory in itself. There's no doubt about that. So nice work out there by PP, getting some work done. And, it looks like a pretty basic round. Nothing too flashy. She's listed as a 38-footer on both 15 and 9. So her C2 putting was listed at 29%, C1X putting 80%. If stats and those types of things get you excited, anytime you're looking at, I feel like I've heard Hannah Macbeth maybe talk about someone like but then her putting is what she needs to pick up on. Well, you look at Paige here, hers was 80%. Looks pretty good there. Also, we're going to scroll down just a little bit. We see a sizable gap. I think that's maybe the biggest story. The sizable gap that Paige has over Valerie and Heather. They both shoot 2 under. Valerie talked about it in an interview, if you saw, where she had there's a 249 footer. Yeah, I'm silly. She had the triple bogey. And I mean, talk about a round killer at that point. Clearly, woulda, coulda, shoulda, as everyone says. Oh, if I just would have parred that, which is probably said more here than any other course on the planet. If I just would have parred, she, however, would have been at 5 under had she just parred. You see where things get much tougher in the back 9. And that's really a common theme, I think, you find throughout. You see there's more blue, generally speaking, on the front 9. Here's a few of these ladies picked up more on the back, but generally speaking, on the front 9, and it's the same of the MPO layout, you find more birdies on the front, and it's just they're there on the back. They're just that much tougher to acquire, and sometimes the wind is on another level by the time you're getting to the back half of the course. Heather Young, pretty steadfast, as you would expect. Just two little bogeys there. Too big, too little bogeys on 9 and 13, keeping it relatively clean. She was pretty open and candid in her press conference, talking about how she felt that She has to play her game, which is very consistent. She has to make her putts, and on a course like this, she's almost banking on the idea that other women are gonna make mistakes, and she feels like playing solid and playing within her own is in fact, her strength, and if there's a place to capitalize on that, that's here. You know, you look to some other courses, like I'll say at Jonesboro, just as one random example, just kind of playing conservative and just chugging along at Jonesboro is not gonna move you up a leaderboard. At a course like this, it can, because you see so many good scores, and then you see how they just kinda slowly are given back to the course, especially as you move into the back half of the round. So, she's just looking to play safe, play clean, and continue her putting. She was 100%, if I recall, 100% C1X putting. Maybe no surprise to any Heather Young followers. She was listed as a 49 footer on 7, and then a 38 footer from circle 2 and that was to save the par on 18. And I think back to 18 last year, it may have been the final hole of the tournament, and she was looking to secure her position and of, I think, 5th, and hit a circle 2 putt, like death putt, on hole 18 last year. So she's just so confident in that putting stroke. Sarah Holcomb will round out your lead card tomorrow. You see, again, nothing incredibly flashy. She struggled on 6, 7, and 9, and then surprisingly struggled on 17. I'm going to guess that that was must have been an out of bounds stroke. She had 3 OBs on the day. You know, 6, 7, and 17. 3 out of those, all 3 of those OB strokes, then understandably turned into bogeys. So C1X putting 67%, and nothing from C2. And, so huge. Missy struggled coming down the stretch. We were keeping an eye on her and saw that she was looking to have a great round. And then she had the double OB on hole number 17. So picked up 3 OB strokes just in the last 2 holes, or should I say 4 OB strokes in the last 4 holes. And so her round, was on pace, but you gotta close it out. I don't know if there was anything else wild or crazy to look at from there. Madison Walker, of course, had a really strong finish, and keep this in mind. Fast forward 24, 30, 48, and 72 hours from when they completed today's round to look at what might be happening come Saturday. Look at Madison Walker's finish, a triple, but then followed up her birdie. Paige Shue, the bogey, and then, or sorry, the double bogey, and then followed it up with a triple bogey. So closing out this round is not easy to do. Nice work, Chantel. Her 1 birdie on the day came on hole 17, and you see a few solid players here went birdie free, which tells you just how difficult this course can really be out there. Yeah, so just keep plugging away, but know that holes 17 and 18 are always looming. And I think that's something that you have to keep in mind. And you could say, well, yeah, duh, you have to close out the tournament. There's always going to be holes 17 and 18. But when 17 and 18 are providing the challenge that they are, I think that's why it's so much more crucial to be thinking ahead about, hey, what are these holes going to play like when we ultimately have to come back to them? So those are things that I would be thinking about. Um, the back half is the story. It feels like of this course. I feel like our FPO division really depicted that or exemplified, displayed that today. One of those words are probably appropriate. So we'll see what they can do with it, and whoever can have that strong finish, or and by strong, just keep in mind, strong might even just mean a consistent or a blemish free finish. You saw almost every single woman there had some kind of challenge closing it out. Paige Pierce being really the one exception there, and a reason why Paige Pierce, who picked up 8 birdies on the round, managed to come in at 7 under. So right off the bat, gets the bogey, then picks it up and starts things running from there. I'm going to take a quick look at some of the chat board that's going on. And for those of you that know, I am very much open to interaction here as we can see what's going on throughout the weekend. Hopefully, I'll be able to answer questions for you guys and provide a little bit of insight uh, each and every night that I go about this. I make no promises of the quality, but hopefully I can do that for you. So I see a couple familiar faces like the Garners, Cody, Emily. So good to see you. Johnny V is out there. Excuse me. All right. So, reading a few of those comments, Johnny says, "Is this where I complain about the pay per view and having to pay $20? It's 25, or that there were commercials in my pay per view? How dare them?" Yeah, and I feel like we went off on a tangent last night or a rant, and I understand. And I said this to Jeff Spring, and I had a conversation today while we were up there. I can understand how there is a little bit of confusion from the fact that Disc Golf Network has been providing disc golf with a subscription base for this year, last year, and it's been providing that. I absolutely understand that. So when we come to a specific event that has an additional pay per view on top of it, I I feel like it was almost even easier when they were separate channels, so to speak, and it was offered through Fulcrum or whomever in years past. I feel like at least from a description standpoint, that makes it a little bit easier for everyone to understand and comprehend that, hey, these are two separate entities. However, Disc Golf Network is ultimately the backbone this year, and the pay-per-view model is something that the additional pay-per-view model is something that Innova and the championship really is the model in which that they want to move forward with it, and that's really the best way to make it sustainable, to be able to give the additional coverage. The fact that we've got obviously both the men and the women, that there's some bonus content, that there's going to be all the post production that's going to be available is also going to be on the Disc Golf Network. All of that is part of your pay per view model, and I understand there's confusion. I don't know what to tell you other than hopefully you know where it's at now. And if I'll be the first to say this out loud. I absolutely hope that you find the value in whether it's the 20 or 25 or the $25 then discounted to 20 or the $100 option. I hope that you as a viewer and as a fan can find that value. I mean, if you think about the potential of paying $20, which comes back down to $5 a day, which comes back down to like, if you watch even just six hours, let's say, out of the 8 or 10 that are offered, you're paying like a less than $1 an hour to watch disc golf. I hope you find all that valuable. If you don't, I I I understand that too, and so be it. And that is absolutely, I feel like you're well within your rights and decision to not then jump on board. We invite you to. We hope you do, but if you don't, that's okay too. I mean, you don't watch the live disc golf, or you don't get to consume it in the same way. I'm totally fine with that as well. I do always think about all the analogies and comparisons though that can be made to what you will spend on a particular disc today, what you will go out and just blow $20 on that may have very little return in the big picture, as opposed to what you could be getting out of 4 straight days of coverage. But I'm not going to try and convince you. I hope that you find value. And if you don't, that's fine as well. Just means you're going to miss out, unfortunately. All right. I'm going to jump over now to the MPO side. All right. That's what I'd like to touch on here briefly. Holy cow, there's a lot of comments that I'm not keeping up on. So I'll have to dig through those in a little bit. I'm going to jump over to the MPO site, guys, and let's quickly talk about what we saw over there today. I think if I click a button or two here or there, I might be able to make that work again. Again, when when I leave myself up to clicking the buttons, there's no guarantees of where it's going to go. So I think if I click this, we're going to be back. Thank you again, UDisc. And then with that, I'm going to click on this USDGC tab. There's a ton of amazing stuff on UDisc, just to throw that out there. I was clicking on plenty of this event background and all that other stuff earlier today. I was especially clicking on this. Sometimes, here's my little secret. Sometimes I'll check what this this little article had, and then I'll pass it off as if I did my own research when really I was just reading something they put together. So that's worth going out and getting a read for. But here we go. We have a tie for first. I mean, if we're just going to be blunt, one of those guys, you're like, oh yeah, sure. I picked that. I guessed that. I assumed that. I was planning on that. That unfortunately probably wasn't Terry Roethlisberger. Love Terry. We had a great interview with him. He's just an incredible human. And today he put it together, and just look at the difference of what he did versus Nate Sexton, but yet somehow they still arrived at the exact same score. And to me, that's incredible. Here's what's also incredible. I wish I would have screenshot this. Looks like Nate Sexton's round was completely updated. So, quick backstory to that is we saw Nate Sexton coming in off the course. I saw that he was shooting a good round. In fact, on hole number 16 or 17, it showed that he was at 11 under. I believe at hole 16, it showed that he was 11 under. And we're like, wow, he's too clear. I'd actually just interviewed Greg Barsby offline, and Greg Barsby was at 9. And we're like, holy cow, Nate Sexton's at 11. He's got you by 2. We had that talk. And we see him go on to par 17. And then at some point on 18, or right after the 18 completed, he went from 11 under to 10 under. And I was baffled by it, just absolutely baffled. But yet he took a par on 18. I mean, had he bogeyed, clearly the math would have checked. Well, later when we talked to him, he said that it looked like he had been marked for a birdie on hole number 1, which of course he admitted to saying that he didn't get a birdie. And then the other thing that threw me off, calling it a valid excuse or not, the second we opened the interview with him, I'm looking at this very screen, and it was showing at one point like a 66 footer for hole 9 and a 66 footer for another hole. And then it had like, I want to say 3 or 4 38 footers listed for him. And I was thinking, holy cow, you killed it. Like, your putting was insane. And now it looks like it's been adjusted, which they can always go back and do later on. And I asked him and said, man, you were just lights out in C2. And he said something like, I didn't make a single C2 putt. I was like, what? So there was a little bit of confusion. He was gracious about it. It sounds like there was just a newer UDiscer. He ultimately had the scores correct when it was all said and done, but it sounded like a few of the exact specifics to the round were incorrect. So they've gone back. They've now adjusted for everything, and it looks like it is now all correct. And this is actually news to me as well. I was expecting to see those numbers, so they did fix them. Maybe the most important number on all of these, like Paige Pierce, 0 OB, 0 penalties for Sexton. So solid round out there. He's at -10, and I'll admit, fair or otherwise, everything about that interview getting kicked off on the wrong foot is then what shook me to then going on to not having my best interview on the day with him. Because then I closed it out, I think, by saying, well, you're at 9 under. Would you take 4 9s? He's like, well, I'm actually already at 10, which it makes sense that he was correcting me there. But look at Roethlisberger. He had the incredible start. You know, he was getting it done with his putter, a couple 38 footers, couple, C2 putts, but, opening 7 for 7, 8 for 9, 9 for 11, and then went on. Like, here's the crazy thing. Look at what he did, and just the contrast between him and the co-leader in Sexton. They had 5 birdies in the last, 6 or 7 holes, and none of them were the same. And I think that's just wild, more than anything. Looked like Greg Barsby kind of had a similar stretch, and then Joel Freeman, who really finished on a sour note with the double bogey. but still, and he did that relatively early on, but then still managed to stay in the top 4. Joel Freeman, started off the round with a big putt, 49 footer. It says he ultimately had 4 OBs. Um, you see that he still got up and down on 10 and made the par, and he did so on 11 and made the par. So certainly impressive there by Joel. And then Barry Schultz, tried and true, 3-time USDGC champ. He shoots a 7 along with McRae, Adam Hammis, and then Evan Scott. And then Paul Macbeth, who was off to a great start, as was Dylan Horst. Incredible start. Found a little trouble in the middle, started putting it together near the end, and then faltered just a little bit as they both closed out, both him and Dylan. So looking at that, you see who was off to a great start where they maybe fell off a little bit. Ezra struggled just to close it out, but was on pace for a pretty solid round. Simon Lizotte, we were certainly watching what he was doing as he strung together all these bogeys, and then he gets to 16, 17, and 18. And if you add that up, what is that? 1, 4, 5 over in the last 3 holes to bring him all the way back to a 4 under. So those are some of the things that you're seeing. Isaac was off to a great start. No better start in the world than Austin Hannum. It happened just moments as I was walking up to him and his card teeing off. Unfortunately, no one was running a camera of any kind to capture that. But nice start there for Austin. And also, coming off the Music City Open win and the national tour, Mason Ford, who got off to a good start, and unfortunately, things only kind of went the opposite way for him. And then you're looking at Connor O'Reilly, who, of course, took down a national tour event earlier this year over at Delaware, had a pretty solid front, and then things caught up to him in the back. And there's not many courses where you look at, someone like the caliber of Connor O'Reilly. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, I see. He took a 6, a 4, and a 6 all in a row. Like, these are just numbers you don't commonly see at most tournaments. But they can add up quickly. I mean, look at Isaac Robinson, super solid player, 2, 3, and then 6, 5, 7. Just every top level player will tell you the same thing out here. They will tell you, don't make a mistake that then snowballs. Barry Schultz, he said it. He said, I laid up a putt or two because I didn't want to think about the out of bounds that could come into play otherwise. And Greg Barsby said that. Playing within your game, knowing when to be aggressive and not. I mean, and I know those feel like generic statements, but and could be applied to many tournaments. I feel like at this tournament, at this course, that's maybe more true than almost anywhere else. There is OB on every single tee shot on this course. You can find out of bounds. And on most holes, if not all of them, an approach shot, at least anything that's a par 4 or more, an approach shot can find out of bounds on this course. That's crazy. So it's never, players will also tell you, it is never something you can just relax. You're like, I'm just gonna walk in this par. I'm just gonna play it super easy or safe here and walk away by not doing this or doing that. That's just so difficult to do out here. So those were the scores. Those are some clearly some of the very basics. Thank you to UDisc that I could run through those and pull up some of that stuff. I'm sure if we drill down a little bit more, I could tell you guys some of the other crazy statistics, but I'm not going to do that just yet. And here's why. To no fault of their own, it sounds like we're going to get probably better, more accurate statistics and details as the week continues to go on. It sounds like we maybe had a few fresh faces that were out there doing UDisc. Of course, that's all on a volunteer basis. Most of the players hate doing it on their own. And so usually a scorekeeper or a UDiscer is awarded or is granted with a group or goes out with a group, assigned to a group. And although it is relatively easy, it also can be a little bit nerve wracking. You have somebody that's never done it before, that's trying to track where this person landed and where that person landed and did they go out of bounds. And then sometimes it can get really uncomfortable. Be like, did you just go out of bounds? Was that your second time out of bounds? Like, I can't imagine being. I'm a big fan. Thankfully, I'm very comfortable with these guys, and gals, but that's got to be a little bit nerve wracking. So I have a little empathy for our UDisc scorekeepers out there. You're newer, you're at a major, and sometimes it could be a little bit awkward as to whether or not you got all the throws correct, and somebody misses a putt from what you think is just outside the circle, and then they go up there and tap it in, and then you have to sometimes clarify or use your best judgment to say, well, were you in the circle? Did you just miss one from inside the circle? Were you inside 15 feet, or were you inside 10 feet, or whatever? There's some awkwardness that can ensue, and that's not the scorekeeper's fault, and it's not the player's fault. It's just I could understand it being a little bit intimidating or overwhelming, especially when you're there, you're volunteering your time, you're just trying to do a good job as it is. But it the more I think about it, the more I think about these situations coming up, and what kind of challenges that they can be. So that's what we saw. I did see a clip later. Kevin Jones doing some DJing. For most of you, that's no surprise. I know he was working with DJ Heck Yeah, and was going to do a set. I think those are all the right terms. Excuse me. And he was doing that over at the village, the Edge Village, or the USDGC player experience competitive Edge Village place, doing all of that. Hopefully people had a good time over there as that was unfolding tonight. Also unfolding tonight, it kind of came about as a last moment thing or an unplanned thing necessarily, but slow play. And some of you have seen my Instagram. Most of you haven't, but I was introduced to Julian and Chelsea. She came up and introduced herself, I should say. She said she does the social media for Slow Play Brewery. That happens to be just, as they'd say, a hop, skip, and a jump away from where I'm at. Yeah, went over there and it's just great. They have discs on the wall. They have some beverages named after disc golf. They had the pay-per-view. So if you're super cheap and you'd rather go spend 20 or 40 or $100 on craft beer and support them, you could go over to the brewery there and you could take it all in because they have paid for the subscription. So that's up and running on the wall. So they have disc golf playing from today. They were replaying it from earlier today. So very cool to see. I think Ben is another gentleman I met. I believe he's one of the owners. Also just all about disc golf. And in fact, even from my story, Cassie Sweeten from Australia said that she was taken there when she visited here one other time. So it's awesome to see them. They've said they've been there about 3 years. And the fact that they support disc golf the way they do is awesome. So thank you so much to them. I think I got some stickers. Might have to give away some stickers. Oh, right here, right in front of me. See if that works. Show you guys if that will focus. But that's Slow Play Brewing, and Ben Lee is the gentleman. They made a beverage, I think, specific for the event, and it's called Slow Play Brewing. Life moves fast, play slow. And I think Throwing Aces was maybe the name of the beverage. But this is a sticker that they were giving away. And I think if you buy a certain amount of beverages, Ryan Pilcher, if you buy them, they were doing some kind of raffle opportunity. So thanks to them. All right. I'm going to do my best we're getting to the now, believe it or not, already the slower portion of the show here, where I just want to review a few things that you guys talked about. Maybe I can answer some questions. So glad you guys are joining me. It's crazy that it's 11:30 Eastern, and we have so many of you guys here. Maybe some of you typed in 2021 USDGC, and now you're sorely disappointed that you're not watching some kind of golf from today, but instead you found my mug. Either way, I'm super glad you guys are here, and the numbers alone tell me that you may want me to keep doing this on eventual nights or consecutive, continuous. I'll come up with some other words. Founders has some other ideas for me. All right. I am going to do my best. So I apologize. I'm going to have to look down to do some reading here, but I'm going to do my best to see if I can catch up with a few of your comments that you guys have been providing here. Stacks of papers falling. Are you still talking about or were you talking about my background? Somebody tell me as well, and I may not see it for a moment, my air conditioning kicked in. And I was told last night during our podcast that this microphone, which you may or may not be able to see real well, actually has worked pretty well in terms of canceling a lot of the noises out. But anyway, so let me know. Joel, shredding for sure. When Terry was interviewing Nate Sexton, it became very clear to the PDJ needs a governing body of statistics. You can't rely on UDisc. I kind of ultimately covered some of that. It's about having, it all comes down to the input, and whether that's the players who really don't want to do all of the specific input to arrive at those statistics, or if it's just a matter of having enough people at every event. And normally every event does have enough people, but it rotates every single event. You may have 200, I'll be crazy here. You may have 200 completely, absolutely over the moon, emphatic, wild about disc golf scorekeepers in Jonesboro that don't make a mistake. And then you could go to the next event. I won't pick on any city, but you could go to the next event, and instead of 200, you have 70, and those 70 are just fresher to doing it. So I'm not going to get down on UDisc or any of the volunteers. I understand that we would love to do it, but all statistics are driven from what's being inputted into UDisc. So our UDisc training and opportunities have to be as good and as consistent as possible. And again, I'm not blaming UDisc. I feel like they do a great job of explaining what needs to happen. But again, for everything I mentioned, I can see a little bit of hesitancy and a little bit of awkwardness that could take place on any single hole. Another thought that just came to mind, you're the biggest James Conrad fan on the planet. You've got the MVP logos on your face, tattoos, everything, and your license plate says Nomad or whatever. I get it. And then James having a rough round, and you have to now clarify with James if he just, went OB for the third time on hole 12, which obviously sounds crazy if you know the backstory, but that could be awkward and intimidating. And I'll leave it at all that. I can understand it. Jay, thank you for being out there, Jay. If somebody else was wondering, they weren't, I'll just say that, was wondering if the super chat works. It does. It is actually working. I feel like every night I should have some kind of a giveaway out of super chatters or something like that, but maybe that's something I'll work on for tomorrow night. Jay says if Kelvin stays motivated, he will dominate every tournament soon. Yeah. I mean, if he doesn't scream emotion and motivation and passion, I don't know what you're seeing in that face of his. So you're right. I don't know if you're going to touch on Simon. I did that a while ago. Yes, you were asking for it. Nico made me sad too. Nico was having a good round. I don't remember how Nico, but again, if you got to that back, I could see it. McCrae, here's a quick side note. McCrae, 40, 50-ish, 50 something. Barry Schultz, 51. They both shoot 7 unders, arguably two of the oldest players in the tournament. And then the youngest player, I believe the youngest player in the tournament being Evan Scott at 16. Like, how just crazy. The youngest and the oldest shooting the same score, which is a good score. Like if they all shot like 6 over, you'd be like, oh, who cares? They shot 7 unders, and they're going to find themselves on the chase card tomorrow. So that's kind of a little unique sideline to that. Robert earlier was chiming in saying a recap on an event no one can watch. Couldn't be any more wrong, Robert. If you really think about it, and I understand you're going for the effect or the hyperbole there, but yeah, everyone can watch it. Literally every single person. Every person can watch it. It's if they wanted to pay the pay-per-view or not for it, or steal it from someone else, or go to slow play and watch it there. Hole 17 always wins is what was said. Yep, it will get you. Yes, Greg being bogey free. Kevin Jones could improve his game if he's willing to address the caffeine addiction. I'm clearly I'm no health expert. I think that's obvious, but I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not. I'm certain I couldn't even postulate on that. That could be somebody's that'd be somebody's thesis or research that they want to dig into. I can't speak to any of that. I'm not about to tell Kevin from an athletic perspective really anything. He'll figure it out. Terry, repping Rosemount makes me happy. I lived there a few years ago, way before I got into I don't know what Rosemount is. Is that an area? Like Rosemount, Illinois? Robert went on to later show frustration about the pay-per-view. I think we've beat that to death. Brody was off to a good start, and it looked like he fell off. Certainly some people asking about that or were commenting on that. What room at Cambria are you in? You're in 507. Sam, were you asking that last night? I purposely ignored somebody asking exactly what room I was in. So, Sam, I'll give you a hint. If you walk down the hallway and listen closely enough, you could probably hear me. Let's put it that way. Sue says, I don't think Ricky is ever going to win this. I disagree with that. I think somehow, some way, someday, could be this year yet, Ricky Wysocki is going to take this down. I think he's just too good not to. Seth had said, don't talk to the players unless you're spoken to. Yeah. And again, that probably goes back to the whole UDIS conversation that I was having a little bit earlier. Sue's figuring out where she plays golf, Kentwood, all those other saying NFL, you have to pay for Super Bowl. Wow, Robert, I get it. You are very frustrated. And I understand that. I don't know. What I will say about, again, the pay-per-view in this sense is it's funny where we've gotten to in disc golf to assume that it should be free. Like, I don't know how many things that you wake up to in the morning, and this is a generic statement, that any of us wake up to and say, yeah, you know what? Somebody owes me that. There's like 20 or 30-ish, maybe 40 media-related people here working. Media for the broadcast, somewhere between 20 and 30. We're talking about professionals, top-level professionals, all the way down to not so professionals in the sense that they're newer or are in an extra hand. There's an enormous cost to pulling off every broadcast. And the Disc Golf the Disc Golf Network monthly subscription is a model, perfect or otherwise, but this is also another model. I guess I just, and clearly I come from a little bit of a biased point of view, and that I don't want to say I'm just on the inside. Even if I weren't here, even if I had nothing to do with the event, I'm going to tell you, I would support it. I'd be okay with it. But clearly, I understand that you're frustrated, and that's okay as well. Heber says Innova is the reason for the paywall, correct? I mean, if you wanted to be like black and white about that answer, sure, yes, then you would say it is. It is a separate event that has separate considerations that are not part of a typical disc golf network offering. And it's funny because I think back to earlier in the year or earlier a few weeks ago, some people, again, you always wonder, how many of these people are squawking, but some people frustrated about the format, or someone said, I'm not getting enough golf in the match play. Maybe some of you online said that very thing. I'm not getting enough golf in the match play. Please, for the love of God, keep in mind the match play is a bonus event only because of some incredible sponsorship that came along, only as a Disc Golf Network exclusive to be added. It was a bonus event in every sense of the word already. And so to hear people frustrated that they didn't get enough golf to watch, um, is a bit much. It's I kind of feel like you pay for the combo at Five Guys, and then they put all those fries in your bag, Cajun ones, of course, because those are the good ones, and they've given you more than you should have already gotten, but then you want to go to them and say, "Yeah, but I need more?" Like, I guess that's how it somewhat would feel, but who's your dark horse pick after day 1? I mean, come on. I don't know. I mean, if Terry Roethlisberger doesn't remain as a dark horse or isn't still a dark horse for someone, I don't know who is. Evan Scott, I mean, good solid player, but was anyone like, yeah, this AM world champ is gonna go, take down the best of the best. I don't know if anybody was saying that necessarily. And then after that, there's not a lot of quote unquote dark horses, I think, right there nipping right now. I mean, there's a lot of great names that are doing what they should be doing, is the best way that I would say that. That's all, of course, on the USDGC side. And then there's no real surprises. I mean, Alex Benson finds herself in fifth, tied for fifth with Missy Gannon and Macy Valadiaz. Alex Benson only because she's one of the newest kids on the block who's hanging tough. Yes, that's an whole NKOTB reference for you, Johnny V. And she's got work to do. I mean, she's already 8 back of Paige. She's in the thick of it with everyone else, but she's already 8 back of Paige. And speaking of Pages, I mentioned earlier, Paige Shue, really had a good consistent round going. She had a ton of pars, nothing incredibly flashy. She struggled on 17 and 18. Another one, dare I say, way back in 15th, who you would have to assume is going to make a big move come as early as tomorrow, would be Katrina Allen. I mean, she ultimately had 5 birdies out there. She really struggled on hole 13, where she took a triple bogey 7. But you have to just assume, like, your current world champion, one of the best to ever play the game, Katrina Allen, you have to assume she's going to find a way to make a charge. Next to Paige Pierce, next to Paige Pierce, Katrina Allen has the second most amount of experience out here at this course. So, and every player will tell you, experience matters at this course. And you might throw that out as a generic statement in a lot of places, but at this course in particular, when you see someone like a Barry Schultz shoot a 7 under and be in contention at the slightly older age than myself, and then some, that's experience, and being one of the best ever, but that's experience. I mean, he knows what he needs to do out here. There's no doubt about it. All right. Nico Gio here says, I'm pretty high on Sexton, but I'd happily admit I didn't expect any of the other folks up there. Seth says, hope Nate continues to play well. I feel like this course sets up really nice. I mean, yeah, he's won here before, and he's a very smart player that takes what's given. And you're not going to see him like, oh man, I'm going to try this 600-foot hyzer line, that Simon may attempt when he gets, I was going to say either frustrated or he's just playing well and then tries something. Yeah. Um, no surprise to see him play that well. It's impressive more than anything that with everything he has going on and very little practice that he can come out here. So he's clearly just incredibly comfortable with it. All right. I got a gold star T-Bird last year. Super dope. That's all with your pay-per-view. Very cool. People are spoiled by the free content on YouTube. That's another way to look at it. Do they have more experience than Holcomb? Yeah, I mean, I know Holcomb's played here a number of times, but Kat has multiple times tried to get in from qualifying. Paige was here on the performance year, which she won. And has played here a number of times. So that's why I say that I feel like Paige and Kat have even more experience, I believe, than Sarah Holcomb out here. And is it a ton more than Sarah? No, not maybe necessarily, but those two or three have played, more golf than almost any other, combo of women that you can think out there. So, all right, I'm going to read a few more here. Dylan says he supports Jomez. You absolutely should. There's, I don't think it's some people think it's a competition. Doesn't need to be. I mean, you can support Jomez, you can support Live, you can support Central Coast or Gatekeeper and GK. You can support the disc golf guy. I mean, there's so many different things you can support. I don't think it has to be an us versus them or he versus she or we versus, whatever mentality. How far do you media guys walk on this tournament? Kind of interesting to see. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't get personally a lot of walking in with my role this year. I have a unique role for at least my standards in that I am essentially handcuffed or stationed or tethered to the shack area. And as I'm watching players come off the course, whether it was a good or a great round, or I feel like there's maybe some interesting backstory that we can catch up with them on, that's where I want to dig into a little bit of my personal experience or background with said player to then have an interview with them. And of course, we talk about the round and the course and the event, but then I like to dig a little deeper into some other things that you may or may not be aware of. And I'll use a couple of great examples. I feel like, today, the very first interview I did was Sarah Cunningham. No diss to Sarah, but many of you don't know who Sarah Cunningham is. Sarah Cunningham, I was there watching her and filming in 2010 when she won her first and only world title, FPO world title. She took that down in Indiana. A couple years later, Paige Pierce ended up winning at that same facility, but Sarah Cunningham won it in 2010. Valerie Jenkins had come off of wins in 2007, 2008, 2009. Paige, of course, it was an odd number year in 2011, so she took it down in 11 and in 13. And then in 2010, though, someone who was playing obviously at the top of her game, 2010, went to Sarah, at the time, Sarah Stanhope, who is now Sarah Cunningham. So she was here, she's playing, and she got done with her round. She had a solid round, but I wanted to talk to her about her life that's not touring disc golf right now and her playing in this event. And, she's a teacher and has kids and all these other things. And that's one of the focuses and one of the roles that I have here this week is to provide you guys a little additional bonus interviews and content that's then going to be categorized on DGN on Disc Golf Network, is so that yes, you're going to hear from somebody that's in contention, and hopefully I'll be doing all of the post-round interviews that contain our leaders and our top finishers, but I also will give you a little bit of more outside of that. I talked with Dave Felberg at length today. I talked with Brian Schweberger, and he's not even playing this weekend, but he's caddying, and he's won 309 PDGA events. So certainly a guy who's played 17 or 18 times at this event and is kind of a staple of the event. He's certainly a guy that is great to still catch up with. So look for those. I don't know if they're fully loaded to DGN already or not, but that is my personal role. And I think this whole tangent started because that means Nate Perkins, who's doing a lot of the on-course check-ins and field reporting. Nate Perkins is doing the walking, which I would gladly do as well. However, the strategies for the weekend were all put together. They had Nate doing the field reporting, which I think he's great at, and I'm more than honored to be doing the interviews that I've done. I think when it was all said and done, I did 11 or 13 interviews today, of about half which were live that you potentially saw, and the other half or so are all going to be some of that bonus coverage that comes in on the Disc Golf Network. And I'm quickly taking a look for you guys because I tried to then do a running. Talk to Sarah Cunningham, talk to Zoe Andike, and then live we had Heather Young, Valerie Mondahano, Paige Pierce. Also, I caught up with Greg Barsby, Dave Felberg, Brian Schweberger, and then live we also on the MPO side talked to Nate Sexton, Terry Roethlisberger, Barry Schultz, and Evan Scott. So it's kind of funny when I add all that up. I still got plenty of words in today. Not enough walking, but plenty of words. And let me know. This maybe should perfectly segue to what do you want? Do you want to hear about, backstories, personal experiences at the event, their history, things outside of just them competing this week and that round, because those are the things that I'm trying to draw from and bring in a little bit of my personal background and story to conjure up some of those memories and or feels with the players. That's where I'm kind of going with it. But if there's something you want to know, shoot it over my way and maybe I can get that answered for you. All right, back to it with Mike Janish said, thoughts on prize picks coming into disc golf makes me nervous. Payouts are too similar to disc golf winnings and could be tempting to players to do some unmoral stuff. Yeah, maybe. I don't think you're gonna. I mean, of course, I'd like to say I don't think you're gonna see that. The players have to care. There has to be enough at stake. Is a player gonna, blow, an extra stroke or two near the end of an event, which may mean hundreds or thousands of dollars, but then, because it's gonna help some line or some sports bet that affects hundreds or thousands of dollars. Like it just, I, maybe. I mean, of course, it absolutely. We all know if there's a way to cheat or scam something, somebody's thinking of it or is attempting it. I'm not worried about it at this point. Is what I would say. Do I like the idea of them being here? I mean, a lot of people would say and have said, having sports betting is adding legitimacy to our sport because it's done on so many other levels. And, fantasy related stuff, all of that, DraftKings and all those types of things. A lot of people would say that helps give us more exposure and add legitimacy to us. Could make some things more interesting, that's for sure. What did you get over at Slow Play? Legal Remedy open tomorrow. I didn't get one of they didn't have any they didn't have Backwoods Bastard on tap, which I think would be weird if they did since it's a founder's beer. Maybe not. I don't know. I love you, Backwoods Bastard. I think I got the cider because I looked through their long list. I've been so incredibly spoiled by this that almost everything that's not this usually doesn't do much for me. However, I do enjoy some ciders from time to time. So I think I tried their a cider that was there, which was good. I think it's a guest tap or another brewery's tap. Some people are talking about it's not about having free content. I already pay for Patreon to support the channels. I like the DGPT just has terrible coverage. Well, I mean, one way to look at that is chicken and egg. And I can speak to this because I've been around for a while. Does having more money help get us to a better product? Or should you have a whole bunch of money from somewhere and then you provide a better product that then people complain about having to then pay for? So, and I say just chicken and egg of like, we, every entity usually could use more money to make improvements. But if people don't want to pay or support, then it's going to be tougher for improvements to be made. And I understand we could argue all day about what's the right business model, but that to me is just another way to look at it. Sue said that she's surprised Brian didn't qualify. He didn't. He said he played. I think he said he shot a 71, and I think you only get one chance at it this year. And so he said that was not good enough. I don't know honestly what the numbers were. I didn't see, but he did not qualify, and that's why he's not playing. Perkins needs to further polish his commentating skills, in my opinion. I'll just go ahead and say a couple quick things to that. One, no matter who you are and what you're doing, you're never going to please everyone. I know that better than anyone. Two, I do think he does a really good job the times that I've thrown to him and heard him. And three, could he use some, as you say, further probably. I think we all can. I feel like every single one of us on every part of the team could use some additional training and some constructive feedback and some very precise things that would make us all improve. And I'm hoping we're going to see and experience some of that during this off season so that we can all improve. I know every single one of us has room for improvement, some more than others, maybe not, but every one of us, and certainly myself included, I would love like a hard, steadfast list of, the top 5 or 10 or 15 things that I need to address or fix. And I would work towards those. I don't have that other than some people occasionally screaming at me from the chats. And I always make the joke that you saying, "Hey, shut up, fat face," like that isn't something I can change that's going to make it better. Well, I guess I could, but you saying, "Hey, you mispronounce this word, or you don't use this word correctly, or that's not a word," kind of like the word anyways. I'll throw one out there. I was informed once, anyways isn't a word. So I have tried to completely eliminate that from my vocabulary. And there's a lot of them. I'm not going to dig into all those. But yeah, those are all things that we need, I think, to help improve. Watch for Noah Meinsma to have a good round tomorrow. I saw Noah Meinsma at the brewery, and he will not be having a good round. Just kidding. I did see him. I'm making no judgment. He was upright and gave me knuckles. So he's going to have a good round tomorrow. We'll go with that. Need more input, says we want all the gossip. I ain't got. Do I look like a guy that has gossip? Come on. Parties, goodies. I'll try and keep you guys updated. Bet on disc golf over under finishes. There could be a million things that you could bet on. Amount of birdies, amount of bogeys, amount of penalty strokes taken, you versus other people in the field, putting percentages, fairways hit. Like there's every stat that's on UDisc in some way could get bet on. And then that brings a whole other question back to what you said earlier, Sue, about really accurate statistics. And so I think before we see too many bets made on statistics, yes, you're right. I think we need to have all of our statistic gathering like completely on lockdown because it could impact some kind of, what's a fairway hit at Winthrop? And I don't mean that in a facetious way, but what is anything that's not out of bounds? Those are a few things. All right, disc golf Wisco says stop lying. We know that's an NA beer. No, it definitely is not. And I think my red face may prove as much. Philo doesn't need any more improvements. I disagree. Like I love Philo to death. I think there's a few minor things that he could address. And I don't even mean that in a jerkish way. I just feel like literally every one of us have some minor or major adjustments that could be made. Literally every single one of us. As good as he is, and so don't get it twisted. He is great. But you should try the food truck. Yep, that's what I was told. Pronounced uh, KIB. Okay, instead of CI, it's spelled CIBI, but it's pronounced KIB. Well, that's confusing as all heck, Jason. But good to know. What's this announcement that was just made about James Conrad trading card disc plays on Instagram? I can't speak to that. I'm not up to speed on it, honestly. Aced with one of your old lifetime buzzes over the weekend. Hope you're doing well. Hey, Jason. Appreciate that, man. Holy cow. Jason Rose from Lombard, Illinois from forever ago before you went into the Army. Jason Rose. Holy cow. Jason, it's been like a decade. I think that's the same Jason. Hope you're well, man. Terry Miller is a major reason disc golf is a passion of mine. He's a true legend to the sport. Please play some events next year. Well, I appreciate the kind words. I'd love to play more. We'll see if that happens. Ryan Pilcher, who I enjoyed some beverages over at the establishment with. I believe it's a par 3. A fairway hit has to be within C2 or better for how UDIS stats work. Has to be. I don't. No, it doesn't. Does it? If I'm just gonna throw this out, you're on hole 16, roughly what 400-ish feet, and you throw it 100 feet, but it's dead center fairway. I think that's still considered a fairway hit, isn't it? I don't know. All right, in bed GPS chips in disc for stats. That's not crazy in our lifetime. That 2, 5, 10, 15 years? I don't know, but it's going to happen in my lifetime. Ken Climo should do commentary, pay him whatever it takes. I don't know if it's a payment issue. I'm pretty sure that's not the problem. I think there's probably other considerations, timing and obligations and or a desire. I mean, those are just my guesses, but I don't think it's a financial issue of like he told in of a hey I'd really like X amount of money, and they're like no. I don't think that happened. I think there's probably other things that have gone into it. AUDL has some free pools to gamble on their finals. When we be able to gamble on events, that's already happening. Scott, get with it. Shout out. Here's a free shout out to OSU Cascades disc golf team in Bend, Oregon. We love you, Terry. Well, Nico, I appreciate that. I'm going to be in Bend next weekend, calling the action. I'm flying out of Charlotte. Yes, Charlotte, this Sunday to travel back to Wisconsin for a few days to then fly out to Bend to commentate on the event in Charlotte. I'll see you over at Bevel. Well, let's hang out there. All right. I'm curious if the OGs like Schwebby, Barry, and Johnny have benefited from the disc golf explosion. I'm sure they have to some degree. Have they benefited the same way Alexander Graham Bell benefited when cell phones came out? Yeah, probably, which means not as much. Yeah, I mean, some of those guys just were early pioneers, and you can literally say that about every industry in every pioneering situation. There's plenty of you can extrapolate that into the disc golf media, into the disc golf vending, into disc golf artwork, and there's so many different ways you could say like, hey, this person or these people were doing this. It wasn't a big deal. It later blew up into this major explosion, and do some of the OGs and some of the pioneers and the trailblazers get either the credit and or the support financially? No, they don't. But that's literally true, I'm guessing, in almost every single industry. Whoever, yeah, I'm not even going to postulate on it. I think every industry, that's going to be true unless you somehow protected things or had some crazy patent and, that somehow guaranteed you a certain degree of compensation. I think that's going to be true in every industry. Kyle was great when he did commentary back in 2019. Yes, I very much agree with that. Terry, was your 990 rating in 2011 significantly easier to earn than versus today? Than today. Here's what I'm going to quickly say about that. And I saw EMAC today, and I love that guy, and I loved him before he made this comment. A few years ago, we were at the DDO, then the GBO it was called, and we sat in on a Disc Golf Answer Man podcast, and the comment was made that I was once 995. I get giddy just talking about this. I was once 995. In fact, 2007, when I was essentially at the peak, I was in the 990s forever. 980s, 990s forever. And in 2007, sorry, when I was 995, like there weren't a ton of 1,000 rated players, not like there are today. There's not a million. There's a lot of them. And Eric McCabe made the comment that, and remember, Eric McCabe won Worlds in 2010, just like Sarah Stanhope / Cunningham I mentioned earlier. Eric made the comment that my 995 in 2007, with today's inflation, as he called it, or disc golf inflation, he thinks that'd be more like a 1020. I don't know if that's the case. Of course, I mean this is postulating, and he made up that number, in a very unscientific way. But I guess if I'm really getting at your question though is, yeah, because you look back. I mean, you look back at some of the ratings that were around and available back when ratings first started to become a thing, and what it took to win events and what players were rated versus what we see today. Clearly, there are hundreds and hundreds of more world-class players that are insanely gifted and talented. I mean, Calvin Heimberg in 2007 would have been insane, just like he is here today. Now, is there? I don't know. I was always stuck on the idea that I never got to 1,000. That I don't know if that's more or less frustrating than the fact that my PDGA number is 10738, and I always wish I was a 4-digit number, and 730